Danford. I believe I'm 7th on the list. Are all the judges ready? And the timer? Alright, great. Have you ever wondered if someone was really telling you the truth? Or have you ever walked up to a group and wondered if you were welcome to join in their conversation? Or perhaps, have you ever wished that you could tell what someone was thinking just by looking at the expression on their face? Well, today I'll be talking about body language. That is, how you can interpret someone's physical gestures to better understand what is really going on inside their mind. My interest in this topic was sparked by the TV show, Lie to Me. In this show, the main character, Dr. Cal Light, solves crimes by reading people's body language. While researching this, I discovered that the show is based on the actual science of body language, and I'd like to share with you what I've learned. So today I'll be talking about several different aspects of body language and how you can interpret them. You'll be learning about the distance we keep between ourselves and others, facial expression, barriers, and finally, how to tell if someone is lying. You all use body language a lot more than you would think. Scientists say that in our daily interaction with others, body language makes up 65% of our communication, while only 35% is verbal. This means that body language can really help you whenever you meet new people or anytime you're relating to others. Whether with friends, at work, or in trying to decide whether or not a candidate is trustworthy. However, when interpreting body language, you must be careful not to make a judgment based on only one body language signal. This is because some signals may have an alternate cause. A person scratching their head, for example, may be uncertain about a subject, or they might just have a bug bite. With this in mind, let's move on to the first major aspect of body language that you want to be aware of, which is how we position our bodies relative to others. Have you ever been told to move away from someone because you're invading their personal space? Well, everyone keeps an invisible boundary between themselves and others based on how well they know the person they're interacting with. Our personal space extends about 4 feet around us, and if someone enters it without first establishing trust, then we begin to feel defensive. We can see how this works out by imagining ourselves sitting in the waiting room of a doctor's office or a hairdresser's. Suppose the next person to come in sits here. How would that make you feel? A little defensive? Well, fortunately, when choosing a place to sit among strangers, studies show that most people will choose a chair in a predictable way, and they'll do so in a way that maintains personal space. So the next person to come along will most likely sit near one of the ends, and the next will sit on the other. And it will continue this way until someone must sit directly next to another person. How we position our bodies in relationship to others is foundational to body language. For instance, if I move too close to you, you may start to feel uncomfortable, right? However, if I'm too far away, I might appear standoffish. Another aspect of body positioning that you want to look for is how people angle their bodies when they're talking to someone. The angle at which we orient our bodies gives nonverbal clues about our attitudes and relationships. If we are directly facing another person, this generally means one of two things. We are either having a private conversation or a confrontational one. Directly facing another person usually feels too confrontational for a normal conversation, so we stand with our bodies angled at 45 degrees to one another. When my mother first heard about this conversational angle, she was very skeptical, but her skepticism changed when she found herself talking to someone at a party and noticed that she instinctively angled her body to 45 degrees. This just goes to show how a lot of body language is subconscious. The next aspect of body language that you want to be aware of is facial expression. According to anthropologist Ray Birdwhistle, humans can make and recognize somewhere around 250,000 facial expressions. While most of these vary around the world, research by Dr. Paul Ekman shows that there are 6 basic facial expressions that are recognized by all cultures, even isolated societies. Happiness is the most recognizable facial expression, but also the most commonly faked. We all recognize the lips being turned up, but if you want to know if a smile is real or not, look for wrinkles around the eyes. False smiles do not depict the eyes or upper cheeks. To detect if someone is really experiencing sadness, Don't just look for downturned lips. Instead, look for the sign of true sadness, which is the inner corners of the eyebrows being pulled up. With genuine fear, you should not only see a stretched back mouth and wide eyes, but also eyebrows that are raised up and pulled together. Disgust and anger are both emotions that people try to hide. If you watch someone's face closely, however, you can detect split-second signs of hidden disgust, such as a wrinkled nose, or hidden anger, where the lips are pressed together hard. And finally, surprise. Surprise is conveyed by raised eyebrows, open eyes, and parted lips. Surprise is always a brief emotion, so if the facial expression is prolonged, it could well be that the person already knew about that surprise party. The next important part of body language that you want to look for are barriers, which are discussed in the book, The Definitive Book of Body Language, by Barbara and Alan Peace. Barriers are anything a person puts between themselves and someone else. The most common barrier is crossing your arms in front of you. Crossed arms often indicate that someone is nervous, impatient, or defensive. Scientists have discovered that gestures and emotions are directly linked to one another. For instance, if you cross your arms, it will actually begin to make you feel defensive, even if you weren't initially. Salespeople are actually advised to hand crossed-armed people a brochure or cup of coffee, because this makes them uncross their arms and lowers their defenses. Examples of barriers that are more subtle than crossed arms would be holding a purse, coffee cup, or other objects in front of your body. You'll see this all the time at parties or other social gatherings. Having these barriers helps people to feel more secure, especially when they're around people they don't know as well. When someone not only crosses their arms, but also their legs, then that is a fairly reliable indicator of defensiveness, like you see here. The farther away from the brain a body part is positioned, the less aware we are of what it is doing. This makes the legs and feet an important source of information when it comes to interpreting body language. When people are standing in a group, their lead foot tends to point toward the person they are most interested in. And if they're hoping to leave the conversation, their foot will begin to point toward an exit. But there are also other things feet can tell you. If two people are talking to each other, and you walk up to join them, they may turn their heads and greet you, like this. But you need to be aware of their feet to know if you're really welcome. If they keep their feet pointed toward each other, this means that you are not welcome. However, if they turn their closest foot toward you, this means that you are welcome to join in their conversation. Now we've talked a bit about barriers, but now let's talk about how people build rapport. When we begin to trust the people we are talking with, our barriers start to come down. Our legs uncross, our arms uncross, and we actually begin to copy each other's body language. This is known as mirroring, and people tend to do it when they trust and agree with someone. So far, we've talked about personal space, facial expression, barriers, and mirroring. But what are the keys to discerning whether or not someone is telling the truth? Well, one of the easiest signals to spot is whether the person is speaking with their palms exposed or hidden. When people lie, they tend to hide their palms in any way possible, such as placing them inside of pockets or behind their back. Studies show that it is actually very difficult to lie with your palms exposed. I actually tested this concept at a recent speech tournament. In between speeches, we played a card game called Mafia, which requires you to lie if you hold the Mafia card. This particular day, I ended up with this card several times, and decided to experiment a bit with my research about body language. I played one round with my hands in my pockets, and was suspected of lying almost immediately. However, when I held my hands out and open, no one suspected me of lying. My personal experience confirmed the research. Well, at least in my opinion. The final sign of lying is touching the face, especially the nose. This is because of something called the Pinocchio effect. When people lie, chemicals are released that actually cause their nose to swell slightly, resulting in an itching sensation, which makes them touch their nose. Or, in other words, your nose literally grows when you lie. Today, you've learned a lot about body language. Hopefully from now on, you'll remember the importance of maintaining personal space, of understanding the messages the body language give us, of interpreting facial expression, barriers, and foot position, and finally, some of the signs of deception. My hope is that you'll take this knowledge of body language, and use it to better understand the people around you. Thank you.